My fiancé said, "I just need one last trip with my ex before marrying you for closure." I smiled and said, "Of course." The next day I called the caterer and the venue. She learned the truth at her bridal shower, in front of everyone. The conversation happened 2 months before our wedding. I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner, and my fiancée, Olivia, was leaning against the counter, twisting a dish towel in her hands. She had that look on her face, the one that meant she was about to say something she knew was completely unreasonable, but she was going to frame it as a moment of profound emotional maturity. "Babe," she began, her voice soft and serious, "we need to talk about something." I finished wiping down the stove and turned to face her, leaning back against the counter. "Okay, I'm listening." "It's about Liam," she said, dropping the name of her ex-boyfriend like a small grenade into the quiet of our kitchen. Liam, the guy she dated for 5 years before me, the guy whose name was a ghost in our relationship, always lingering in the background of her stories. She swore it was over, but I'm not a fool. I'm a civil engineer. My entire career is built on seeing the stress fractures in a foundation before the whole thing comes crashing down, and Liam was a 3-foot-wide crack in ours. "What about him?" I asked, keeping my voice even. She took a deep breath, like she was about to dive into cold water. "I can't fully step into our future, into our marriage, without properly closing the door on my past. He reached out, and we both feel like we need to see each other one last time, to say a real goodbye, for closure." I just stared at her, letting the audacity of the statement wash over me. She wasn't asking for a coffee date. I knew her. It was never that simple. "And what does a real goodbye look like?" I asked. "It would just be a weekend," she said, rushing the words out. "We were thinking of going back to that little town in the mountains where we used to go, just to talk, to reminisce, and to officially end that chapter, so I can come back and be 100% yours with no baggage. Don't you see? This is for us." It was a masterpiece of manipulation. She was presenting her betrayal as a gift to our relationship. My mind was racing, connecting this to the secretive texts I'd seen her sending for weeks, the sudden late nights at the office. This wasn't a spontaneous need for closure. This was a pre-planned rendezvous she was now trying to get my permission for. Any other man might have yelled, might have called her out right there. But my mind doesn't work that way. An engineer doesn't get emotional when a bridge shows signs of failing. He assesses the structural integrity, calculates the load capacity, and decides whether to reinforce it or condemn it. In that moment, I condemned our relationship. The woman I thought I was going to marry was telling me to my face that she was going on a romantic getaway with her ex-boyfriend. 2 months before our wedding, a slow, cold clarity settled over me. The decision was made. The only thing left was to manage the demolition. So I smiled, a calm, understanding smile. "Of course," I said. "I get it. Your emotional clarity is the most important thing to me. If this is what you need to do to be fully ready for our life together, then you should do it." The relief that flooded her face was so absolute it was almost comical. She actually beamed, like she had just gotten away with the perfect crime. "Oh, thank you, baby," she gushed, throwing her arms around me. "I knew you'd understand. You're the best." I hugged her back, my mind already calculating the next steps. "When are you leaving?" I asked. "This Friday," she said. "I'll be back Sunday night." I already took the days off work. Of course she had. I nodded, pulling away. "Okay, well, you two have fun getting your closure." She left the kitchen, already on her phone, probably texting Liam the good news. I stood there for a long time, the quiet hum of the refrigerator the only sound. The engagement was over. The wedding was a fantasy. She just didn't know it yet. She thought she had 3 days to say her goodbyes. In reality, she had 3 days until her entire world came crashing down around her. Update 1. The day after our conversation, I set my plan in motion. It was a multi-front operation that required precision, discretion, and a complete lack of sentimentality. Olivia was at work, blissfully unaware, probably bragging to her friends about how evolved and understanding her fiancé was. Phase 1 was financial separation. We had a substantial joint account dedicated to wedding expenses, an account to which I had contributed roughly 80% of the funds. I went to the bank and spent 2 hours with the manager. I didn't close the account. That would have triggered an immediate alert. Instead, I had him draft the paperwork to have my name removed from it and to transfer my exact, documented contribution into a new, private account. The paperwork would be processed on Friday afternoon, right after she left for her trip. Next, I dealt with the wedding vendors. I had a spreadsheet with every contract, every deposit, every payment schedule. I spent the day on the phone, not canceling, but making adjustments. I called the venue, a beautiful historic estate we had booked for the reception. I told them there was a potential scheduling conflict and that I needed to place a provisional hold on the same venue for a different date, 3 months later. I paid a small fee to hold the new date under a new event name, Corporate Gala. I did the same with the caterer, the florist, and the band. I explained that our wedding plans were in flux, but that my company was planning a major event and I wanted to retain their services. I was converting our wedding into a ghost event, a corporate party that would never happen, keeping the deposits tied up but shifting the liability away from a personal cancellation. The photographer was the only one I canceled outright, forfeiting the deposit. I had a feeling I wouldn't want any pictures of the events to come. Phase 2 was intelligence gathering. I knew I needed undeniable proof. My word against hers wouldn't be enough, especially when her mother, a woman who could cry on command, got involved. I hired a private investigator, a former detective named Frank with a face like a roadmap of bad neighborhoods. I gave him Liam's name, photo, and the name of the mountain town Olivia had mentioned. I told him I needed a detailed time-stamped record of their closure trip. Phase 3 was the living situation. Olivia had moved into my house a year ago. My name was the only one on the deed. I spent an afternoon with my lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman named Diana, who walked me through the legalities of eviction. It was straightforward. Since we weren't married, Olivia was technically a tenant with no lease. Diana drafted a formal, legally airtight eviction notice. Thursday and Friday were a performance. I helped Olivia pack. I listened to her talk about how healing this trip would be. I even gave her a little extra cash. For gas and snacks, I said with a warm smile. She kissed me goodbye on Friday morning, her eyes shining with fake gratitude. "I'll call you tonight," she promised. The moment her car was out of the driveway, I switched back into demolition mode. I went to the bank and signed the final papers, siphoning my 80% from the wedding account. I called the credit card company and reported my card, the one she was an authorized user on, as stolen. That evening, Frank, the PI, sent his first update. It was a photo of Olivia and Liam checking into a place called the Whispering Pines Inn. It wasn't a rustic cabin, it was a luxury spa and resort, famous for its romantic couples packages. The photo was clear, they were holding hands. I spent the weekend methodically packing her life into boxes. Every piece of clothing, every book, every knickknack. I was careful not to break anything. This wasn't about rage, it was about erasure. By Sunday afternoon, the house was mine again. The only trace of her was a neat stack of boxes in the garage. Frank's updates continued to roll in. Photos of them on a hike, his arm around her. A picture of them laughing over a candlelit dinner. A shot of them kissing by a fireplace, taken through the window of the resort's main lodge. He even managed to get a copy of their room service bill, which included 2 orders of champagne and strawberries. It was a lover's getaway, plain and simple. I saved every photo, every receipt. Olivia called me each night, her voice full of fake sincerity. She told me the conversations with Liam were so hard, but so necessary. She said she was thinking of me the whole time. I played the part of the supportive, patient fiancé, telling her to take all the time she needed. She was due back at 6 p.m. on Sunday. At 4 p.m., I took the final step of my preparation. Her bridal shower was scheduled for the following Saturday, a massive over-the-top affair being hosted by her mother and her maid of honor, a vapid girl named Jessica, at a local country club. I knew the event planner, a woman who had worked with my company before. I called her. I told her I had a surprise for Olivia, a special tribute video I wanted to play during the shower. I told her it was a secret and asked if she could arrange for a projector and screen to be set up. She thought it was a wonderful, romantic idea. I spent the rest of the afternoon editing my tribute video. It was simple. A black screen, a title card that read "Closure," And then, one by one, every single photo Frank had taken, set to a slow, mournful piano track. When Olivia pulled into the driveway that evening, I was waiting for her, sitting on the front porch with a glass of iced tea. She got out of the car, looking refreshed and happy. "I'm back," she announced, a bright, false smile on her face. "And I have so much clarity now. This was the best thing for us." "I'm glad to hear that," I said, standing up. "Welcome home." She came up the steps to hug me, but I took a step back, my expression turning from welcoming to stone cold. Her smile faltered. "What's wrong?" she asked. I didn't say a word. I just handed her the legal eviction notice. Update 2. The confusion on Olivia's face as she read the eviction notice was a sight to behold. It was like watching a computer trying to process a command that made no sense. Her brain simply couldn't compute the reality of the document in her hands. "What is this?" she finally stammered, looking up at me. "Is this a joke?" "Read the second page," I said. She fumbled with the papers. The second page was a formal notice of the dissolution of our engagement, drafted by my lawyer. It cited irreconcilable differences. "I don't understand," she whispered, the color draining from her face. "We were fine this morning. You told me to have fun." "And did you have fun, Olivia?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "Did you and Liam enjoy the couple's massage package at the Whispering Pines Inn? Was the champagne good?" The look of pure, unadulterated terror that flashed in her eyes was my confirmation. She knew she was caught. Her first instinct, as always, was to lie. "What are you talking about? We just talked. You're being insane. You're paranoid." I didn't argue. I just pulled out my phone and showed her the first picture from the PI. The one of her and Liam holding hands at the check-in desk. Her mouth opened and closed silently, like a fish out of water. "Your things are in the garage," I said, turning to go back inside. "You have 30 days to remove them from my property. My lawyer will be in touch regarding the financial settlement." "Wait," she shrieked, the panic finally breaking through. "You can't just do this. We have a wedding to plan. I have a bridal shower next week." I paused at the door and looked back at her. "Oh, I know," I said with a thin smile. "I'm counting on it." I closed the door and locked it, leaving her standing on my porch with the ruins of her life in her hands. The week leading up to the bridal shower was a blur of chaos that I observed from a detached, clinical distance. Olivia, having been kicked out of my house, had moved in with her parents. The phone calls were relentless. First, it was her, alternating between hysterical sobbing and venomous rage. I didn't answer. Then came her mother, who accused me of being a cruel, heartless monster for punishing Olivia for a moment of confusion. I told her to have her lawyer contact mine and hung up. Then came her father, who threatened to destroy me. I recorded his voicemail and sent it to Diana, my lawyer. Olivia and her family were operating under one critical misunderstanding. They thought this was a negotiation. They thought my anger was a temporary state, that if they applied enough pressure, I would crack and things would go back to normal. They had no idea that the decision had already been made, and that the consequences were already in motion. Olivia's biggest point of leverage in her mind was the wedding. She and her mother decided to proceed with the bridal shower as planned, probably believing that the public nature of the event would force my hand. They thought I wouldn't dare to allow the humiliation of a canceled wedding to become public knowledge. It was a massive miscalculation. On the day of the shower, I got a text from Olivia. "Everyone is expecting you here. If you don't show up, you will embarrass yourself, not me. This is your last chance to fix this, Kevin." I didn't reply. Instead, I drove to the country club. I didn't go into the main hall where the party was being held. I went to the AV room, where a nervous-looking technician was waiting for me. I handed him a USB drive. "Here's the tribute video," I said. "The event planner, Susan, is expecting it. I want you to play it exactly 10 minutes after my fiancé's mother finishes her welcome speech. Don't stop it for any reason. Understand?" I placed $500 bills on the console. He understood. I found a seat at the bar in the club's main lounge, which had a clear view of the entrance to the banquet hall. And I waited. Final update. The bridal shower was, by all accounts, a beautiful affair. Olivia's mother had gone all out. The room was filled with flowers, balloons, and about 75 of their closest friends and family members. Olivia was seated at a special table at the front, opening a mountain of presents, a strained but triumphant smile on her face. She thought she had won. She thought my absence was an act of cowardice, and that she had successfully called my bluff. I watched from the bar as her mother, a woman named Carol, took the microphone to give her welcoming speech. It was a saccharine, gushing tribute to her beautiful, loving daughter and her wonderful, devoted fiancé. She talked about the power of love and forgiveness. It was a thinly veiled public appeal for me to come to my senses. When she finished, the room erupted in polite applause. And then, 10 minutes later, the lights dimmed. A screen descended from the ceiling, and the projector flickered to life. My tribute video began. The first image on the screen was a beautiful smiling photo of Olivia and me from the day we got engaged. A soft, romantic piano score began to play. The guests murmured in appreciation. Olivia looked up at the screen, a look of confused relief on her face. She probably thought I had come through with a grand, romantic gesture of apology. The next slide was a black screen with a single word in white text: closure. The photo that followed was of Olivia and Liam holding hands at the check-in desk of the Whispering Pines Inn. A gasp rippled through the room. Olivia's smile vanished. The slideshow continued, a brutal, silent narrative of her betrayal. A photo of them drinking wine at a candlelit dinner. A photo of them laughing in a hot tub. A photo of them kissing in front of a fireplace. The PI had done excellent work. The images were clear, damning, and irrefutable. With each new photo, the atmosphere in the room grew colder. The murmuring stopped, replaced by a dead, horrified silence. I could see Carol, her face ashen, frantically gesturing to the back of the room, trying to get someone to stop the video. But the technician, loyal to the $500 in his pocket, let it play. The final image was a close-up of their room service bill, with the 2 orders of champagne and the couple's massage package clearly visible. The piano music faded, and the screen went black. For a full 30 seconds, no one moved. No one spoke. The only sound was Olivia's ragged, panicked breathing, which was being picked up by the microphone on her table. Then, someone in the back started to laugh. It was a short, sharp, ugly sound, and it broke the spell. People started standing up, grabbing their purses, and walking out. There were no goodbyes, no comforting words for the bride-to-be. Just a silent mass exodus of guests who wanted nothing more than to escape the toxic fallout. I finished my drink at the bar, paid my tab, and walked out to my car. As I was leaving the parking lot, I saw Olivia stumbling out of the entrance, supported by her mother and Jessica. Her face was a mess of tears and mascara. She saw my car, and for a moment, her eyes locked with mine. It wasn't a look of remorse. It was a look of pure, primal hatred. I just gave her a small, tight nod and drove away. The aftermath was a complete and total social annihilation. The story of the bridal shower slideshow became a local legend. Olivia, her mother, and her maid of honor were humiliated beyond repair. They had tried to trap me in a public spectacle, and I had turned that spectacle against them with devastating precision. Financially, they were crippled. All the deposits for the wedding were lost. The joint account was gone, and the expensive bridal shower, which her parents had paid for, had turned into their own public execution. Liam, the ex-boyfriend, also faced consequences. His wife, who was friends with one of the guests at the shower, found out about the affair the very next day. She filed for divorce, and from what I've heard, she took him to the cleaners. Olivia is now living in a small apartment and working an entry-level job. Her parents are reportedly still paying her bills, but their relationship is strained. She has no friends, no fiancé, and no future other than the one she created for herself on that closure trip. My revenge wasn't just about canceling a wedding. It was about holding up a mirror. I let her and her entire family host a party in honor of her own deception, and then I simply showed them all what they were celebrating. They wanted a public spectacle? I gave them one they will never forget.